Every day, life hits you. Every day, people, circumstances, and your own mind try to break you. And most of the time, they succeed. But what if I told you that true power, unstoppable power, comes not from avoiding pain, but from mastering your response to it? This is not a philosophy. This is a system, a silent, deliberate system to turn every emotional setback into inner strength. If you're ready to stop being a victim of your feelings and start commanding your life, then listen closely, because this is how you become emotionally resilient. Chapter 1. Master your reactions. Your emotions are not facts. They're signals. Signals of what is happening inside. Signals of what matters. Signals of where your attention has been hijacked. They are not instructions. They are not commands. They are not truths you must obey. They are signals. That is the first principle. You must understand this before anything else. Most people react automatically, without thought, without pause, without control. A trigger appears and the mind reacts. Anger, frustration, panic, anxiety, fear. They react, and they regret it. Later, often too late. You do not have to follow that pattern. You have a choice. You must learn to pause. That is the rule. Pause before action. Pause before words. Pause before judgment. It is simple. It is not easy. It is the foundation of emotional resilience. Pause. Assess. Respond. Pause. Assess. Respond. Say it aloud if you must. Repeat it in your mind. Let it become a system. Here is the first system. Step 1. Recognize the trigger. Notice it. Name it. I feel anger. I feel fear. I feel frustration. Naming the emotion separates you from it. That is critical. Without separation, the mind merges with the emotion. Without separation, your reaction. With separation, you gain control. That is the key. Step 2. Pause. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Count to 5 if you must. Breath in. Breath out. Hold the space. Do not act. Do not speak. Do not engage. Do not justify. The pause is the buffer between impulse and action. That buffer is where resilience grows. Without it, there's only chaos. Pause. Assess. Respond. Remember the words. Internalize them. Step 3. Assess. Evaluate the situation objectively. Remove the emotion from the narrative. Ask yourself, what is true? What is false? What is my responsibility? What is someone else's responsibility? What can I control? What is outside my control? This is not speculation. This is not reflection for comfort. This is assessment for action. That is the rule. Assess with clarity. Assess without judgment. Step 4. Respond. Your response is deliberate, calculated, controlled. It is not dictated by fear, pride, or habit. It is dictated by principle, by strategy, by first principles. You respond according to what will produce the desired outcome, not according to what you feel in the moment. That is the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is blind. Response is intentional. Response is power. Response is freedom. Response is resilience. Consider a practical example. A professional loses a client. Most would panic. Most would call the client, plead, argue, or blame. That is reaction. The moment passes. The damage is done. One alternative: pause. Assess. Respond. The professional names the emotion, frustration. Pause. Breath. Assess what is factual. The client ended the contract. The reasons are partially outside control. What can be done? Identify the next steps. The response is deliberate. Craft a proposal for a new client. Learn from the experience. Maintain composure. The client's loss becomes opportunity. Pause. Assess. Respond. That is the system in action. You will fail at this. At first, you will react. That is normal. That is expected. You will feel impatient. You will feel weak. That is fine. You have a choice. Pause. Assess. Respond. Repeat it. Over and over. Drill it until it becomes the default. The first instinct must be to respond, not react. That is the rule. That is the discipline. That is resilience. Here is a principle you cannot ignore. Emotions cannot be suppressed. Do not try. Suppression is temporary. It fails under pressure. Emotions will surge if ignored. The system works because you acknowledge the emotion, yet you do not let it dictate action. You accept it. You observe it. You act according to principle. That is the distinction. Observe. Accept. Act deliberately. That is your triad. You will notice patterns. Certain triggers repeat. Certain people provoke. Certain situations escalate. Map them. Know them. Anticipate them. Design your response in advance. That is the system designer's approach. You create a response protocol. You're not powerless. You are an architect of your own reactions. That is the discipline. That is the power. You don't need their permission to control your mind. You have a choice. Let us address common obstacles. First, impatience. You will feel the urge to respond immediately. Ignore it. Pause. The mind will argue, if I don't act now, I lose control. That is false. Immediate action without assessment is loss of control. Pause. Assess. Respond. Step 2. Overanalysis. You may stall, trying to find the perfect answer. Do not. Assess clearly. Identify the effective next step. Action is required. Step 3. Pride. You may feel compelled to show strength by reacting forcefully. That is reaction. Strength is in restraint. Strength is in deliberate response. Strength is quiet, controlled, intentional. Practice this every day. The first test is small. Minor annoyances. Minor frustrations. Step by step. Scale up. Larger challenges. Larger conflicts. Observe the effect on your composure. Observe the effect on outcomes. Resilience compounds. Each deliberate response strengthens the next. That is the system. That is the method. That is mastery. You will notice changes. People will respect your calm. Situations will resolve more efficiently. Your stress will decrease. Your decisions will improve. Not because the world changed. Because you changed. You applied the system. You paused. You assessed. You responded. That is the rule. That is the structure. That is emotional resilience. Repeat after me. Pause. Assess. Respond. Pause. Assess. Respond. Make it automatic. Make it inevitable. Make it your default state. This is not optional. It is foundational. Without it, resilience cannot exist. With it, you gain control. With it, you gain clarity. With it, you gain freedom. This chapter establishes the first fundamental skill of emotional resilience. The skill that precedes reflection, discipline, and transformation. Without it, all other tools fail. With it, every other principle is amplified. You now have the system. You now have the rule. You now have the foundation. The next chapter builds on this. We move from control of response to ownership of your inner world. From responding effectively to commanding your mind. You will learn to own every feeling, every thought, every impulse, and never let external circumstances dictate your state. That is the next level. That is the progression. And it begins immediately as you continue this journey. Chapter 2. Own your inner world. Your inner world is yours. Entirely. Fully. Without exception. Every thought. Every feeling. Every impulse. Every reaction. Yours to observe. Yours to manage. Yours to control. No one else has authority over it. That is the first principle. Internal ownership is non-negotiable. Your inner world is your responsibility. No one else controls it. No one else controls it. Most people fail here. They look outward. They blame colleagues, partners, friends, family, circumstances, society, luck, the economy, politics. They assign responsibility to the external. They argue. They complain. They justify. They react. And they remain trapped. Emotional chaos thrives in that mindset. Lack of ownership is a vulnerability. That is the flaw. And you do not need that flaw. You need discipline. You need structure. You need ownership. Here is the system. Step 1. Acknowledge. Every feeling you experience, own it. Not selectively. All of it. Anger, frustration, envy, disappointment, resentment, fear, joy, pride, satisfaction, love, curiosity. Every emotion has a source. You have to accept that it arises within you. You have to accept that you feel it. That is control. That is clarity. That is responsibility. Your inner world is your responsibility. No one else controls it. No one else controls it. Step 2. Separate. Notice the difference between stimulus and response. External events occur. External people act. External situations unfold. But the emotion arises inside. It is a product of your interpretation, your meaning-making, your judgment. That is critical. That is the distinction. People mistakenly believe others cause their anger or disappointment. They do not. The mind interprets, reacts, assigns value, and produces the emotion. Ownership begins here. Recognize the emotion is yours. The control is yours. Your inner world is your responsibility. No one else controls it. No one else controls it. Step 3. Analyze. Examine the emotion without judgment. Ask, why do I feel this way? What triggered it? What is real? What is imagined? What can I control? What is outside my control? List facts. List assumptions. List actions. This is not navel-gazing. This is not indulgence. This is analysis for action. Analysis for mastery. Every emotional state contains information. That information is yours to use. That information guides your behavior. That is the rule. Step 4. Design a response. Once you understand the origin and nature of your emotion, determine the deliberate action. Not reaction, not venting, not projection. Action according to principle. Action according to strategy. If frustrated with a colleague, decide, speak calmly, adjust process, document facts, improve communication. If anxious about a deadline, decide, plan tasks, eliminate distractions, execute. If disappointed by a setback, decide, review mistakes, implement correction, move forward. Ownership is active. Ownership is deliberate. Ownership is disciplined. Consider a concrete example. A professional loses a project opportunity. Initially, the mind reacts with anger. The first impulse is blame. The client did not understand me. My team failed. The circumstances were unfair. That is reaction. It is chaos. Now, apply ownership. Name the emotion, frustration. Separate. The client's decision does not produce anger. Your interpretation does. Analyze. What facts exist? What can I control? What can I improve? What action will produce results? Design response. Contact another potential client. Improve the pitch. Refine delivery. Convert the setback into progress. Ownership transforms chaos into clarity. That is the system. That is discipline. That is emotional resilience. You will encounter resistance. The mind will argue, I am justified in being upset. This is not my fault. I cannot control how I feel. That is normal. That is expected. That is the test. Ownership is non-negotiable. You have a choice. Take responsibility or remain a victim. Take responsibility or surrender control. Take responsibility or remain at the mercy of circumstance. You have a choice. Here is a practical rule. Every emotion you feel, own it first. Do not externalize it. Do not project it. Do not justify it. Name it. Observe it. Understand it. Direct it. That is the system. That is the foundation of resilience. That is the difference between someone controlled by feelings and someone who controls feelings. Daily practice is essential. Begin with small exercises. Morning reflection. Identify 3 emotions you anticipate today. Observe them without judgment. Prepare responses in advance. Evening review. Note all emotional reactions. Determine ownership. Adjust future responses. Repeat. Reinforce. This creates structure. This creates mastery. This creates internal authority. Another reinforcement principle. You do not need their permission. You do not need validation from others to own your inner state. External opinions, external judgments, external actions, they are irrelevant to ownership. Your control is internal. Your authority is internal. Your responsibility is internal. You do not need their permission. You do not need their permission. Let us address mistakes. You will fail. You will externalize blame. You will allow irritation or fear to dictate action. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Pause. Assess. Respond. Return ownership. Ownership is a habit. Ownership is a practice. Ownership is a system. Every time you reclaim it, the habit strengthens. Every time you surrender it, weakness grows. Reclaim immediately. That is the rule. That is the system. That is mastery. Ownership extends beyond single emotions. It encompasses your patterns, your biases, your habitual responses, your mental narratives. Observe them, map them, challenge them, replace them with deliberate choices. That is self-design. That is internal authority. That is emotional resilience at scale. Repetition is critical. Say it aloud. My inner world is my responsibility. No one else controls it. No one else controls it. Say it until automatic. Say it until true. Say it until you cannot ignore it. This is not affirmation. This is a command. This is a law. Internal authority is enforced by you, not by circumstance, not by opinion, not by emotion. Every step taken in ownership reinforces the next chapter. You cannot master your inner world and fail in response. You cannot control emotions and remain reactive. You cannot take responsibility and avoid reflection. Ownership is the foundation. Ownership is the platform. Ownership is the lever. With it, all other skills, discipline, resilience, focus, clarity are magnified. Without it, they are unstable. Conclusion: you now have a system. Step 1, acknowledge. Step 2, separate. Step 3, analyze. Step 4, deliberate response. Daily practice. Repetition. Reinforcement. Ownership is not optional. Ownership is not abstract. Ownership is actionable. Ownership is inevitable. Your inner world is yours. Entirely. Fully. No one else controls it. No one else controls it. The next chapter builds upon this foundation. Once you own your inner world, you will silence the noise around you. You will remove distraction, external pressure, and opinion from your mental space. You will construct a disciplined, uncluttered mind capable of enduring pressure and executing strategy. The next chapter teaches you the system for creating silence and focus. That is the next level. That is the progression, and it begins immediately. Chapter 3, silence the noise. Your mind is under constant attack. Noise surrounds you. External, internal, persistent, relentless. Social media alerts, group chats, news cycles, opinions, demands, toxic conversations, criticism, gossip. Every one of these is a distraction. Every one provokes emotional reactions. Every one weakens control. Every one erodes resilience. That is the first principle. Noise destroys clarity. Noise destroys focus. Noise destroys strength. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Most people live inside this noise. They react. They overthink. They compare. They worry. They chase validation. They amplify minor issues into major stressors. They allow small stimuli to hijack their mood, their energy, their decision-making. That is weakness. That is vulnerability. That is unnecessary suffering. You do not need that. You need discipline. You need structure. You need silence. Step 1. Identify. Name the noise. Be precise. Social media outrage. Toxic colleagues. Endless scrolling. Negative news cycles. Complaining friends. Internal dialogue that magnifies fear or regret. You cannot eliminate noise if you do not see it. Awareness is the first step. Identify what is harmful. Identify what triggers emotional turbulence. That is observation. That is the foundation of control. Step 2. Evaluate. Ask, does this noise serve me? Does it strengthen focus? Does it enhance clarity? Does it improve my decisions? If yes, it is useful. If no, it is noise. That is the system. That is the filter. Every input must pass the filter. Every input must justify its place in your mind. Noise that fails the test is removed, muted, or ignored. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Step 3. Eliminate. Remove the unnecessary stimuli. Log out. Mute. Unfollow. Disconnect. Step back from arguments that do not serve action. Step away from people who provoke uncontrolled reactions. Turn off alerts. Reduce exposure. Create boundaries. Boundaries are not optional. They are protective structures. They are the framework of emotional resilience. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Step 4. Control internal noise. External noise is visible. Internal noise is more dangerous. Thoughts loop endlessly. Self-doubt amplifies failure. Regret consumes energy. Fear predicts catastrophe. Worry invents problems. Overthinking magnifies obstacles. You must identify these loops. You must name them. You must interrupt them. Techniques: journaling, focused breathing, mental labeling. This is worry. This is fear. This is distraction. Labeling separates the noise from the self. That is control. That is clarity. That is discipline. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Consider a practical example. A professional scrolls through social media before starting work. Negative headlines trigger anxiety. Comments provoke frustration. Energy drains. Focus collapses. Productivity plummets. Emotional state deteriorates. Now apply the system. Identify the noise, social media, external opinions, internal judgment. Evaluate. Does this serve your work? No. Eliminate. Turn off device. Set boundaries. Delay exposure until after tasks. Control internal loops. Label thoughts. Redirect focus to current task. Outcome: calm, focused, deliberate action. Noise eliminated. Mind protected. Energy restored. Resilience intact. Noise also comes disguised as obligation. Messages, emails, requests, meetings, small crises. You will feel compelled to respond immediately. That is a trap. The system is simple. Prioritize what aligns with purpose. Everything else is noise. Pause. Evaluate. Decide. Act according to principle. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Repetition reinforces mastery. Every time you notice irritation, anxiety, distraction, or agitation, ask, is this essential? If no, remove it. If yes, engage intentionally. Control input. Control output. Control your state. That is the difference between the reactive and the resilient. Noise overwhelms the reactive. Noise strengthens the resilient only when filtered and controlled. Your mind is a tool. Treat it like one. That is the rule. That is the system. That is mastery. You will encounter resistance, social pressure, habit, comfort in chaos. Everyone is on social media. I cannot avoid this conversation. I have to respond. That is irrelevant. Ownership of your mind is non-negotiable. The question is not convenience. The question is control. You do not need permission. You do not need approval. You do not need external validation. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Practice daily. Morning. Evaluate input for the day. Remove unnecessary sources. Set boundaries. Evening. Review triggers, reactions, and noise exposure. Adjust. Strengthen. Repeat. The mind is trained like a muscle. Consistency builds resilience. Every disciplined action strengthens the system. Every failure is a lesson. Every repetition embeds the habit. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Internal discipline multiplies impact. Noise amplified by distraction weakens resilience exponentially. Silence enforced by rules strengthens exponentially. The system is simple. Identify, evaluate, eliminate, control. Repeat daily. Repeat hourly. Repeat with every trigger. Repetition is not redundancy. Repetition is reinforcement. Repetition is mastery. Silence the noise. Protect your mind. Silence the noise. Conclusion. You now hold the system. External noise removed. Internal noise disciplined. Mind protected. Emotional triggers reduced. Focus amplified. This is the next level of resilience. The mind is no longer a battlefield. It is a controlled environment. It is a foundation for deliberate action. It is preparation for the next principle. Microdisciplines. Once noise is silenced, small habits compound into strength, consistency, and clarity. That is the progression. That is the system. That is the next chapter. Chapter 4. Build microdisciplines. Discipline is not grand gestures. Discipline is not dramatic. Discipline is not motivation. Discipline is small actions, daily repetition. Consistency. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the foundation of resilience. You do not become strong through bursts of effort. You become strong through persistent, deliberate practice. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in one day. They underestimate what they can achieve over months. They wait for inspiration. They wait for energy. They wait for the perfect conditions. That is weakness. That is procrastination disguised as strategy. Strength is built in tiny, deliberate steps. Every day, without exception, without permission, without debate. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Step 1. Identify the microdiscipline. Choose one habit, one small action that, repeated daily, compounds into resilience. Journaling one sentence. Planning the day in 5 minutes. Performing a single push-up. Drinking water before coffee. Reviewing one decision. The action is irrelevant. The repetition is essential. It is the act of discipline, not the act itself, that builds the mind. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Step 2. Systematize. Attach the micro-discipline to a cue. Morning. Evening. After brushing your teeth. After lunch. Create an unbreakable link. Do not rely on willpower. Willpower is finite. Systems are infinite. Systems enforce repetition. Systems enforce growth. You cannot skip a micro-discipline without weakening the chain. You cannot delegate it. You cannot justify delay. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Step 3. Track. Measure compliance. Track completion. Journals, checklists, apps, marks on a calendar. The method is secondary. Accountability is primary. Each day logged is a reinforcement. Each day missed is data. Each day repeated strengthens habit. Each day repeated reinforces control. Do not underestimate the cumulative effect. Small actions build compound resilience. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Consider an example. Journaling one sentence per day. It takes 30 seconds. One sentence. Every morning. No exceptions. At first, it seems insignificant. After 1 month, patterns emerge. After 3 months, insight emerges. After 6 months, clarity emerges. The one-sentence habit transforms reflection into understanding, understanding into self-mastery, self-mastery into resilience. That is the principle. That is the system. That is the result. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Step 4. Review and optimize. Habits must evolve. Daily review what works, what fails. Adjust micro-disciplines to remain relevant. Remove friction. Remove obstacles. Remove excuses. Replace ineffective actions with effective ones. Do not abandon consistency. Adjust only to strengthen repetition. That is the system designer's approach. That is intentional growth. That is resilience by design. You will encounter resistance. Minor habits will feel trivial. Does this matter? The mind asks. Yes, it matters. It matters because repetition strengthens neural pathways. It matters because small victories build confidence. It matters because small victories create momentum. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Another resistance, impatience. The results are not immediate. The mind seeks reward. The world reinforces instant gratification. Ignore it. Microdiscipline is long-term. Compound effect is invisible until mastery emerges. Trust the process. Repetition enforces change. Repetition enforces resilience. Repetition enforces mental toughness. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Another obstacle, external disruption. Life interrupts habits, meetings, travel, family demands, unexpected events. That is irrelevant. You have a choice. Adjust timing, maintain frequency, preserve repetition. Do not abandon the micro-discipline. That is discipline. That is authority over your inner world. That is resilience. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Small actions, daily discipline, endless strength. Step 5. Scale. Once one micro-discipline is mastered, add another. Layer habits. Stack micro-disciplines. Build a fortress of daily action. Each micro-discipline reinforces the next. Momentum compounds. Mental toughness increases. Confidence grows. Emotional resilience solidifies. Strength becomes habitual. That is the system. That is the architecture. That is mastery. Repetition is essential. Repeat phrases. Repeat actions. Repeat processes. Say it aloud if needed. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Internalize the concept. Embed it in the mind. Embed it in the schedule. Embed it in behavior. Every repetition strengthens neural pathways. Every repetition reinforces control. Every repetition builds resilience. Practice example. Morning journaling, 5-minute planning, one deliberate movement, reflection on one emotional reaction. Repeat daily. Track. Review. Adjust. Add. Layer. Repeat. Each micro-discipline compounds. Each repetition enforces mastery. Each habit strengthens the architecture of mental toughness. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Mistakes will occur. You will skip days. You will forget. You will rationalize. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Return to habit without delay. Do not debate. Do not negotiate. Do not apologize. Take immediate action. That is the rule. That is the discipline. That is the system. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Strength is in repetition. Mastery is in microdiscipline. Results emerge over time. The architecture of resilience is built one small action at a time. No grand gestures required. No permission needed. No debate necessary. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. Small actions. Daily discipline. Endless strength. The next chapter builds on this foundation. Once small habits are enforced, focus and effort can be deliberately applied to perspective. You will learn to reframe challenges and obstacles to extract advantage, converting setbacks into deliberate opportunity. That is the progression. That is the next level. That is Chapter 5. Chapter 5. The power of perspective. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. That is the first principle. Life will test you. Life will challenge you. Life will impose obstacles. You cannot avoid this. You cannot control the events. You cannot eliminate hardship. That is reality. The variable under your control is your interpretation. That is perspective. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Most people confuse experience with interpretation. They believe pain itself causes suffering. It does not. Pain is neutral. Suffering is the story the mind creates around pain. That story determines emotion, action, and outcome. Control the story. Control your perspective. Control the response. That is the rule. That is the discipline. That is resilience. Step 1. Notice. Observe events as they occur. Injuries, rejections, failures, criticism, loss. Observe without judgment. Do not immediately label the event as good or bad. Suspend narrative. Notice the raw facts. That is separation. That is clarity. That is the foundation of perspective. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Step 2. Analyze. Identify what can be learned. What advantage can be gained? What principle emerges? What insight can be applied? This is not wishful thinking. This is deliberate evaluation. Every setback contains information. Every obstacle contains opportunity. The mind must extract it. Extraction is the discipline. Extraction is control. Extraction is strength. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Step 3. Reframe. Replace destructive interpretation with constructive perspective. Example: an athlete suffers an injury. Initial interpretation: I am broken. My career is over. I have failed. Reaction: despair, anxiety, frustration. Reframed perspective: this is an opportunity to analyze technique, strengthen weak areas, improve strategy, return stronger. Same pain, different outcome. Same event, different response. That is mastery. That is the system. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Step 4. Act. Perspective alone is insufficient without deliberate action. Reframing must guide behavior. The athlete strengthens alternative muscles. Adjust technique. studies strategy, applies learning. Without action, perspective is intellectual only. With action, perspective becomes transformation. Every reframed obstacle becomes leverage. Every challenge becomes a system for growth. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Practical exercise. Identify one current difficulty. Write it down. List every negative interpretation. Identify the facts. Reframe the situation into opportunity. Define one deliberate action to capitalize on a new perspective. Execute immediately. Repeat daily. Perspective is trained. Perspective is enforced. Perspective is deliberate. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Resistance will arise. This is unfair. This is impossible. I cannot control this. That is irrelevant. You do not control fairness. You do not control difficulty. You control perspective. You control response. You control learning. You control leverage. That is power. That is resilience. That is the distinction between victim and master. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Another common mistake, minimizing the challenge. Reframing is not denial. Reframing is not false optimism. Reframing is strategic. Reframing is truthful. It recognizes difficulty while extracting value. It converts energy from resistance to execution. It transforms despair into method. That is perspective. That is discipline. That is emotional resilience. Step 5. Systemize. Make perspective a default. Observe, analyze, reframe, act. Repeat. Build a mental algorithm. Apply immediately. Apply consistently. Apply to minor inconveniences. Apply to major crises. Over time, the system becomes automatic. The default response to challenge is constructive action. The default state is composure. The default output is leverage. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Example, a manager loses a key client. Reaction, anger, panic, blame. Perspective applied. What could be learned? What systems failed? What improvements can prevent recurrence? Reframe. This is opportunity to strengthen operations, increase efficiency, improve client retention. Action. Implement changes. Outcome. Growth from setback. Same event, different life. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Daily reinforcement is critical. Morning. Review potential challenges. Predict reactions. Plan reframes. Evening. Review events. Evaluate interpretation. Adjust for next time. Perspective is cumulative. Perspective compounds. Perspective strengthens every microdiscipline. Perspective magnifies every habit. Perspective transforms every obstacle. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Mistakes will occur. Emotional reaction will dominate at times. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Return to the system. Observe, analyze, reframe, act, repeat. Each repetition strengthens the default. Each repetition reduces suffering. Each repetition increases control. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Events will occur. Reactions are your choice. Observing, analyzing, reframing, and acting is your system. Perspective is a tool. Perspective is leverage. Perspective is strength. Perspective is resilience. Master it. Apply it. Embed it. Repeat daily. Repeat hourly. Repeat with every challenge. Change your perspective, change your life. Change your perspective, change your life. The next chapter builds on this foundation. Once perspective is mastered, you will embrace discomfort deliberately. You will seek challenges that strengthen resilience. You will convert fear and difficulty into consistent growth. That is the next level. That is Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Embrace discomfort daily. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Ease is the enemy of strength. Stability is not built in safety. Resilience is not forged in convenience. True emotional strength emerges when you intentionally face difficulty. You must step into situations that provoke discomfort. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the system. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Most people avoid challenge. They protect comfort. They rationalize avoidance. It is too soon. I'm not ready. It will be embarrassing. That is weakness. That is stagnation. That is the path to mediocrity. Strength requires deliberate exposure to fear, challenge, and emotional tension. That is the law. That is discipline. That is control. Step 1. Identify discomfort. List situations that produce fear, anxiety, or hesitation. Public speaking, honest feedback, confronting a personal flaw, cold outreach, conflict resolution, difficult conversations, physical challenge, emotional vulnerability. The first step is naming the challenge. Awareness creates opportunity. Awareness enables preparation. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Step 2. Plan deliberate exposure. Discomfort is not random. It is structured. It is measurable. Set a schedule. Define the specific challenge. Determine duration, scope, and intensity. Design small steps that scale. Example: public speaking, start with a short talk to one colleague, progress to a small group, then to a larger audience. Exposure without structure is chaos. Structure without exposure is ineffective. Combine both. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Step 3. Act immediately. Deliberate exposure is meaningless without execution. Do not wait for confidence. Confidence follows action. Courage is not innate. Courage is repeated practice under pressure. Step forward. Speak. Confront. Attempt. Struggle. That is the system. That is the discipline. That is the path to resilience. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Consider a practical example. An employee fears giving honest feedback to a superior. Initial instinct: avoidance. Reaction: anxiety, stress, self-doubt. Step 1. Identify discomfort, confronting authority. Step 2. Plan exposure. Prepare concise feedback. Schedule brief meeting. Step 3. Act. Deliver feedback clearly and calmly. Outcome: emotional tension is managed. Confidence grows. Skill strengthens. Discomfort becomes leverage. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Step 4. Reflect. After each exposure, review performance. What was controlled? What was reactive? Where did emotion override strategy? Where did discipline succeed? Reflection transforms experience into insight. Reflection strengthens neural pathways. Reflection embeds resilience. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Step 5. Iterate. Growth compounds with repetition. Each deliberate exposure increases tolerance. Each repetition reduces fear. Each repetition strengthens control. Habituation does not dull effectiveness. It enhances mastery. Discomfort becomes opportunity. Opportunity becomes skill. Skill becomes resilience. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. You will encounter resistance. Fear will surge. Anxiety will spike. Self-doubt will arise. That is expected. That is the test. That is the signal that growth is occurring. Do not retreat. Do not rationalize. Do not negotiate. You have a choice. Step forward. Engage. Execute. That is discipline. That is authority. That is the difference between reactive and resilient. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Another obstacle, social judgment. Others may criticize or question your efforts. That is irrelevant. Your responsibility is mastery of your inner state. Your responsibility is deliberate exposure to challenge. Approval is unnecessary. Permission is unnecessary. Validation is unnecessary. Step into discomfort regardless. That is freedom. That is power. That is resilience. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Small, consistent challenges build compound strength. Daily discomfort is more effective than rare extreme experiences. Micro exposures accumulate. Small acts of courage and deliberate struggle create structural resilience. Journaling your discomfort, planning next exposure, and reflecting after each encounter reinforces growth. That is the system. That is intentional design. That is mastery. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Practical reinforcement. Identify one discomfort each morning. Schedule deliberate exposure. Execute. Reflect. Adjust for the next day. Repeat. Habits form. Fear diminishes. Strength accumulates. Momentum builds. Over weeks and months, emotional resilience becomes the default state. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Mistakes will occur. Failure will happen. Exposure may feel overwhelming. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Return to action. Review. Adjust. Repeat. That is the drill. That is the system. That is mastery. Discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance is the enemy. Resistance is a signal to act, not to flee. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Comfort produces weakness. Discomfort produces strength. Deliberate exposure to emotional, physical, or mental tension builds resilience. Step forward intentionally. Execute methodically. Reflect consistently. Repeat daily. Your inner world becomes disciplined. Your mind becomes controlled. Your reactions become deliberate. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. Seek discomfort. Grow stronger. The next chapter builds upon this foundation. Once you embrace discomfort, reflection becomes more powerful. You will learn the silent habit of deliberate introspection, observing emotion without judgment, and converting insight into strategic action. That is Chapter 7, The Silent Strength of Reflection. Chapter 7, The Silent Strength of Reflection. Strength is silent. Growth is quiet. Resilience is deliberate. Reflection is the tool. Reflection is the system. Reflection is the lever that converts experience into mastery. Without reflection, action is blind. Without reflection, lessons are lost. Without reflection, emotional turbulence dominates. That is the first principle. Deliberate reflection is a foundation of mental control. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Most people avoid reflection. They confuse activity with progress. They act, react, move, and busy themselves. They believe momentum alone produces growth. It is not. Action without insight is repetition without improvement. Reaction without observation is chaos disguised as movement. You cannot master emotions without observation. You cannot strengthen resilience without insight. You cannot advance without reflection. Reflect, learn, advance, reflect, learn, advance. Step 1. Schedule reflection. Deliberate reflection is not accidental. It must be intentional. Choose a fixed time: morning, evening, weekly review, daily pause. Set aside distraction. Silence devices. Protect the space. Reflection is discipline. Reflection is structure. Reflection is a system. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Step 2. Observe. Note the events, interactions, and challenges of the period. Identify emotional reactions. Record them without judgment. Anger, frustration, anxiety, fear, excitement, joy, pride, satisfaction. Observe frequency, intensity, and triggers. Naming patterns separates emotion from action. That is separation. That is clarity. That is strength. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Step 3. Analyze. Ask, what caused this reaction? What part was within control? What part was external? Could the response be improved? Could the interpretation be adjusted? Evaluate without excuse. Evaluate without blame. Evaluate without justification. Analysis converts experience into insight. Insight converts insight into strategy. Strategy converts strategy into resilience. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Step 4. Design response. Once patterns are identified, determine corrective action. If social interactions trigger frustration, design a method for composure. If deadlines produce anxiety, design a method for planning. If criticism provokes defensiveness, design a method for receptivity. Reflection is useless without implementation. Insight must guide action. Observation without adjustment is stagnation. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Consider a practical example. A professional notices repeated stress from team meetings. Step 1. Schedule weekly reflection. Step 2. Observe. Note anxiety, irritability, or impatience during meetings. Step 3. Analyze. Identify triggers such as interruptions or conflicting opinions. Step 4. Design response. Prepare questions in advance. Control breathing. Pause before responding. Outcome. Emotional state stabilizes, performance improves, stress reduces. Reflection converts emotional turbulence into mastery. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Step 5. Track progress. Keep a log of reflections. Note improvements. Note recurring challenges. Note strategies that succeed and those that fail. This is accountability. This is reinforcement. This is growth measured. Without tracking, reflection loses impact. With tracking, reflection compounds over time. Patterns emerge. Discipline emerges. Control emerges. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Resistance will appear. I'm too busy. Reflection is unnecessary. I already know how I feel. That is distraction. That is avoidance. Reflection is non-negotiable. Without reflection, emotion dominates. Without reflection, reaction dominates. Without reflection, resilience stagnates. You have a choice: discipline or chaos, insight or repetition, reflection or surrender. Reflect, learn, advance. Reflect, learn, advance. Another challenge: overanalysis. Reflection can be misused as rumination. Observation without implementation, questioning without action, reviewing without execution. That is counterproductive. The system requires balance. Observe, analyze, design response, implement. Action anchored in insight is the objective. reflect, learn, advance, reflect, learn, advance. Microdiscipline strengthens reflection. Small daily habits. Journal one sentence of emotional state. Note one trigger. Identify one action for improvement. Track it. Apply it. Over weeks, minor reflection compounds into major insight. Over months, patterns become predictable. Habits become automatic. Insight becomes instinct. That is the system. That is deliberate design. That is mental resilience. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Reflection also reduces reactivity. Emotional spikes are buffered by awareness. Triggers are anticipated. Responses become deliberate. Patterns inform preparation. Insight enforces control. This is strategic mastery. Emotional energy is conserved. Mental bandwidth is optimized. Stress is minimized. Resilience is enforced. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Mistakes will occur. Emotional reaction will sometimes override insight. Reflection is a habit, not a shield. Recovery is immediate. Observe. Analyze. Adjust. Repeat. Each repetition strengthens default response. Each repetition reduces susceptibility to emotional hijack. Each repetition increases composure. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Reflection is silent strength. Observation converts emotion into insight. Analysis converts insight into strategy. Implementation converts strategy into resilience. Daily practice compounds into mastery. Emotional turbulence is managed. Responses become deliberate. Mental control becomes the default state. Reflect. Learn. Advance. Reflect. Learn. Advance. The next chapter builds on this foundation. Once reflection is mastered, detachment from outcomes becomes possible. Effort can be applied without emotional volatility. Resilience is strengthened by focus on action, not results. That is Chapter 8, Detach from Outcomes. Chapter 8, Detach from Outcomes. Resilience is not in results. Resilience is not in success. Resilience is not in approval. True resilience is in effort. Effort is deliberate. Effort is controlled. Effort is consistent. The outcome is external. The outcome is uncertain. The outcome is beyond your control. That is the first principle. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Most people tie their emotions to results. They win and feel elated. They lose and feel devastated. They succeed and feel validated. They fail and feel inadequate. That is emotional volatility. That is instability. That is vulnerability. Resilience is independence from external validation. Resilience is control of action. Resilience is mastery of effort. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 1. Define effort. Identify the actions that are within your control. Skill development. Planning. Execution. Persistence. Preparation. Communication. Problem solving. These are internal. These are yours. These are measurable. Focus exclusively on these. Outcomes, sales, approval, recognition, results are external. Effort is internal. Effort is power. Effort is mastery. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 2. Accept uncertainty. Outcomes are influenced by variables outside your control. Market fluctuations, timing, competitor behavior, chance, people, circumstances. This is reality. Resistance to this fact produces frustration, stress, and wasted energy. Acceptance reduces emotional turbulence. Acceptance frees energy for action. You cannot control results. You can only control your effort. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 3. Detach emotionally. The mind will resist. Loss, rejection, or failure triggers disappointment, anger, or despair. Observe the emotion. Name it. Recognize it. Do not attach identity to it. Your value is not measured by results. Your resilience is measured by consistency of effort. Emotional detachment is discipline. Detachment is freedom. Detachment is strength. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 4. Design deliberate processes. Success is not luck. Success is structured effort. Break tasks into repeatable actions. Focus on execution. Monitor progress internally, not externally. Apply methods that can be controlled. Do not obsess over approval or validation. The system itself generates resilience. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Example: an entrepreneur launches a product. The launch fails. Revenue is below expectation. Market response is negative. Most would panic, blame external factors, or lose confidence. That is reaction. Now apply detachment. Acknowledge the outcome. Accept it without judgment. Review the effort, preparation, execution, marketing, testing. Identify improvements for the next iteration. Continue effort consistently. Confidence remains intact. Resilience is preserved. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 5. Reinforce with repetition. Daily practice is critical. Each task executed with attention to effort strengthens control. Each missed outcome is recorded, but not attached to emotion. Each repetition compounds independence from external validation. Detachment becomes automatic. Effort becomes deliberate. Emotional volatility diminishes. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Resistance will appear. You will desire recognition. You will want confirmation. You will feel disappointment. That is expected. The system is tested precisely in these moments. Maintain focus on internal actions. Reassess only what can be controlled. Reapply effort with intention. Results may fluctuate. Your response remains steady. That is resilience. That is mastery. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Another common challenge: overanalysis of results. People obsess over outcome evaluation. Metrics dominate emotion. Success or failure defines self-worth. That is flawed. Metrics are data. Data informs future effort. Metrics are not identity. Detachment preserves clarity. Detachment preserves focus. Detachment preserves action. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Step 6. Combine with reflection. Track both effort and results. Separate internal and external variables. Identify patterns in effort that produce favorable results. Discard obsessive attachment to result. Reflection without detachment is emotional. Reflection with detachment is strategic. Reflection with detachment converts failure into leverage. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Small habits reinforce this principle. Journaling effort daily. Reviewing actions weekly. Planning tasks methodically. Avoid obsessing over metrics outside control. Celebrate consistency, not result. Strength compounds. Mental control strengthens. Emotional resilience becomes habitual. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Mistakes will occur. Outcomes will be unfavorable. Results may provoke frustration. That is expected. Detachment is learned. Effort remains in your control. Corrective action is applied. Reflection informs adjustment. Repetition strengthens system. Progress continues. Emotional stability remains intact. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Effort is internal. Effort is controllable. Outcome is external. Outcome is uncertain. Your emotional state is preserved when detached from result. Consistency of effort generates mastery. Detachment strengthens resilience. Daily repetition compounds strength. Emotional volatility diminishes. Resilience becomes habitual. Control the effort. Release the outcome. Control the effort. Release the outcome. The next chapter builds upon this foundation. Once effort is controlled and detachment established, your environment can be structured to protect focus and reinforce resilience. You will build systems, relationships, and routines that support strength, clarity, and deliberate action. That is, Chapter 9. Build a fortress of support. Resilience is strengthened by environment. Strength is reinforced by structure. Emotional control is amplified by support. You're not isolated. You're influenced constantly by people, routines, systems, and surroundings. That influence can either erode or reinforce strength. That is the principle. That is the rule. That is the system. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Most people underestimate environment. They overestimate willpower. They believe internal discipline alone is sufficient. It is not. External factors amplify or diminish internal resilience. Toxic relationships, chaotic schedules, unstructured routines, distractions. These weaken discipline. Mentors, accountability partners, deliberate routines, supportive systems. These strengthen discipline. Environment enforces habits. Environment enforces focus. Environment enforces resilience. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 1. Evaluate your network. Observe the people around you. Identify those who drain energy, encourage excuses, or provoke emotional volatility. Identify those who challenge positively, model discipline, provide guidance, or maintain standards. Reduce contact with those who weaken control. Increase contact with those who reinforce strength. Relationships are infrastructure. They are the foundation of resilience. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 2. Select mentors and accountability partners. Mentors provide perspective, guidance, and insight from experience. Accountability partners enforce consistency, check progress, and challenge avoidance. Choose carefully. Choose those who model resilience, focus, and emotional control. Regular interaction with these individuals reinforces internal systems. Support is not passive. Support is structural. Support is active. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 3. Design routines. Daily structure protects mental energy. Morning rituals. Focus blocks. Reflection periods. Exercise. Journaling. Planning. Sleep hygiene. Nutrition. Eliminate unnecessary decision-making. Reduce unpredictability. Routines enforce habit. Routines conserve energy for deliberate effort. Routines reinforce resilience. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 4. Protect physical and digital space. Environment includes more than people and routines. Your surroundings impact focus and emotion. Organize workspace. Remove clutter. Control notifications. Limit exposure to negative content. Silence distractions. Create zones for deep work, reflection, and recovery. External order supports internal order. Systems protect focus. Systems protect calm. Systems enforce consistency. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Consider a practical example. A professional struggles with emotional volatility and distraction. Step 1. Remove toxic coworkers from influence. Step 2. Engage a mentor for guidance on leadership and strategy. Step 3. Schedule daily routines. Morning planning, focused work blocks, evening reflection. Step 4. Control digital and physical space. Turn off non-essential notifications. Organize workspace. Outcome. Focus strengthens. Emotional turbulence reduces. Decision-making improves. Resilience increases. The fortress enforces discipline. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 5. Maintain boundaries. Supportive systems fail if boundaries are weak. Protect time from intrusion. Protect energy from unnecessary engagement. Protect decisions from external influence. Say no to distractions, obligations, and relationships that reduce resilience. Boundary enforcement is discipline. Boundary enforcement is clarity. Boundary enforcement is strength. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Resistance will appear. Others may question choices. Why are you cutting contact? Why are you so rigid? That is irrelevant. Strength requires structure. Discipline requires boundaries. Resilience requires protection. Your inner world, focus, and energy are non-negotiable. Protect them at all costs. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Step 6. Review and reinforce. Weekly reflection. Evaluate environment, routines, relationships. Adjust as needed. Replace weak links with stronger structures. Strengthen systems. Strengthen boundaries. Strengthen habits. Resilience is cumulative. Strength is structural. Protection compounds. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Small habits enforce support. Daily check-ins with accountability partners. Brief reflection on routine adherence. Reinforcement of boundaries in meetings, conversations, and schedules. Every small act reinforces the fortress. Every repetition compounds protection. Over time, the environment becomes a natural extension of discipline. External systems enforce internal mastery. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Mistakes will occur. Relationships will fail. Systems will falter. Routines will break. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Reinforce the structure. Reestablish routines. Reassert boundaries. Replace weak links. The fortress is maintained continuously. Discipline is not occasional. Discipline is constant. Discipline is enforced. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Conclusion. You now hold the principle. Environment amplifies discipline. Relationships enforce habits. Routines preserve focus. Boundaries protect energy. Systems reinforce resilience. Emotional control is multiplied when the external world supports the internal. Build the fortress. Maintain it. Adjust it. Protect it. Daily reinforcement ensures strength. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. Protect your mind. Protect your time. Protect your life. The final chapter builds upon this foundation. Once the fortress is constructed, all previous systems, reflection, detachment, microdiscipline, perspective, discomfort, operate within it seamlessly. The final principle unites all chapters: silent, disciplined, unstoppable emotional resilience. That is, Chapter 10. Transform setbacks into momentum. Setbacks are inevitable. Failure is unavoidable. Disappointment will strike. That is reality. What separates the resilient from the reactive is not the absence of struggle. It is the response. Every setback carries a hidden seed of growth. Every difficulty contains leverage. Every loss holds an opportunity for mastery. That is the principle. That is the system. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Most people collapse under setbacks. They feel defeated. They rationalize failure. They wait for external rescue. They blame circumstances, people, or luck. That is reaction. That is wasted energy. That is lost potential. Resilience converts the same event into forward momentum. Resilience extracts lessons. Resilience converts struggle into deliberate action. That is the difference. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Step 1. Pause. Do not react immediately. Do not act impulsively. Stop. Observe. Assess. What happened? What is under your control? What is outside your control? Facts, not emotion. Separation is essential. Clarity is mandatory. The pause creates leverage. Pause. Assess. Strategize. Pause. Assess. Strategize. Step 2. Extract insight. Every setback contains information. Job loss reveals weaknesses, gaps, or areas for growth. Failed relationships expose patterns and triggers. Mistakes highlight process flaws. Identify the cause. Separate external factors from internal ones. What can you improve? What skill can you develop? What system can be strengthened? Insight converts loss into opportunity. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Step 3. Design action. Insight alone is insufficient. Action compounds learning. Create a deliberate plan to address the root cause. Skill building, networking, process improvement, reflection, repetition. Strategy replaces reaction. Execution enforces growth. Action converts insight into momentum. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Consider a practical example. A professional loses a job unexpectedly. Initial reaction: frustration, anger, self-doubt. Pause. Separate emotion from facts. Assess which areas of performance can improve, which skills are underdeveloped, which networks can be leveraged. Insight: gaps in marketing knowledge. Action: enroll in targeted courses, update portfolio, connect with mentors, launch a freelance project. Result: new skills acquired, opportunities multiplied, confidence preserved. Momentum is created from setback. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Step 4. Maintain discipline during recovery. Momentum is fragile immediately after setback. Emotional reactions can derail progress. Microdisciplines stabilize. Journaling, reflection, exercise, structured planning, consistent execution. These enforce continuity. Systems absorb shock. Systems convert disruption into rhythm. Systems transform emotional turbulence into deliberate effort. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Step 5. Scale insight into leverage. One setback is a single data point. Patterns emerge over repeated challenges. Lessons compound. Systems improve. Skills accumulate. Resilience is layered. Each recovery strengthens the next. Momentum grows exponentially. Momentum becomes habitual. Strategy becomes instinct. Power emerges silently. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Resistance will appear. Setbacks provoke fear. Setbacks provoke doubt. Setbacks provoke excuses. That is expected. The test of resilience is the response. Do not indulge despair. Do not delay action. Execute with discipline. Repeat systems. Apply insight. Convert emotional energy into deliberate progress. That is mastery. That is strength. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Another challenge, overanalysis. Some attempt to dissect every detail endlessly. Paralysis ensues. Insight is necessary, not obsession. The system is simple. Pause, assess, extract insight, design action, execute, repeat. Complexity is the enemy of momentum. Simplicity enforces action. Repetition enforces mastery. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Small, consistent habits reinforce momentum. Daily reflection. Immediate application of lessons. Tracking progress. Adjusting strategies. Layering learning upon learning. Micro-discipline compounds into macro-resilience. Every setback strengthens the architecture of mental toughness when approached strategically. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Mistakes will occur. Failures will repeat. That is expected. Recovery is immediate. Return to the system. Reassess. Adjust. Execute. Repeat. Each iteration strengthens default response. Each iteration reduces vulnerability to emotional hijack. Each iteration multiplies momentum. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. Conclusion: you now hold the principle. Setbacks are unavoidable. Suffering is optional. Every loss contains leverage. Every failure contains insight. Every challenge contains opportunity. Pause. Assess. Extract insight. Execute action. Apply discipline. Momentum emerges from deliberate response. Growth becomes inevitable. Emotional resilience becomes habitual. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. If you have followed each principle in this audiobook, stopping reactive behavior, owning your inner world, silencing noise, building micro-disciplines, mastering perspective, embracing discomfort, practicing reflection, detaching from outcomes, and building a fortress of support, you now possess a complete system for unstoppable emotional resilience. Implement the system daily. Repeat relentlessly. Strengthen silently. Live deliberately. Your setbacks no longer control you. You control them. You have transformed weakness into leverage, struggle into strategy, and pain into power. Turn pain into power. Turn struggle into strategy. Turn pain into power. If this audiobook has guided you toward building resilience, mental mastery, and unstoppable momentum, subscribe now to continue receiving authoritative, long-form self-mastery content that reinforces these systems, strategies, and habits directly to your feed.